joined by Peter Mansbridge, the voice and face of CBC News for so many years. But I got to know Peter more as a hockey fan and a baseball fan over the years that we worked in the same building together. And Peter, I got to ask you, top of mind, this is a baseball team in Toronto that is 15 games over 500, and they got booed off the field last night. Can you imagine being A, that good, and B, that frustrated?
I know. I couldn't watch the end of it last night, quite frankly. This is a team that a year ago had the hitting, but not the pitching. This year, for the most part, we've got the pitching, but the hitting is, especially in the last kind of month or so, has been, well, whatever happened to these guys? And then the pitching kind of collapsed in this series against Texas, which is unfortunate. But, it, as you know who said, it ain't over till it's over, and they're just going to turn it around. That's all. And we'll look back at this as a hiccup on the road if they are able to turn it around. But the fans have got to be fans. This thing, and it happens in Toronto, right? We've seen it with the Leafs. We've seen it now with the Jays. Never seen it with the Raptors, which is a different crowd, very different crowd at the Raptors games. But it's, you don't want to see it. You didn't want to see them, remember, throwing the jersey on the ice, the Leafs games, that kind of stuff. Come on, we've got a good team there. They're having a couple of days of a bad run. Hopefully they can turn it around.
To me, I'm generally speaking, booing never solves anything. Fans have a right to do it. I mean, I sort of subscribe to that. If you pay your ticket, you have a right to express your feelings, though it's if you ever step back and think about it, it's not motivating. It's kind of useless in terms of your what you ultimately want. And here's the thing about this team, Peter, at least from my perspective, and I've watched since I've been here since 2018, almost every Blue Jays game. Maybe missed a couple here or there, but for the most part, I've watched every game. I like watching them, and I think they're an interesting team. This year has been, if you're an observer or a fan, so joyless and so frustrating, which is such a odd thing to say about a team that is 15 games over 500. I wish I had the elegance or the words to say it, but I feel as if I am watching a team that's like the Royals, 30 games out or something like that, where the season has ended in June. But the irony is, you are exactly right. If they put together a 6-game winning streak, we're having a different conversation next week.
We've been saying that all year, Richard. We've been saying that all year.
My larger point is, John, I've never experienced a season where it feels so doom and gloom for a team that is legitimately in the middle of a playoff race. I wish I could understand it, and maybe it's because they haven't had a winning streak, but it is the absolute weirdest baseball season I've seen in some time.
Yeah, I try to figure out in any sport what's actually happening behind what we see, what's happening in the dressing room, what's happening between the players. Are there problems in the dressing room? I don't know that there are. Maybe there aren't. At the end of the weekend series against whoever it was that we took 3 out of 3 games in a row.
Royals.
And the Royals, that's right. And they were really excited. And at the end of the game, they do this thing where they drag one of the players out and interview him outside the dugout. And it was Kiermaier that they pulled out. And he didn't want to listen to any questions. So he just took the mic away from, I think, Garden Swelling. And he did this spiel, which was a crowd, to raise the emotions in the crowd. We're going to do it. You got to be with us. Let's go. We're all for it. I mean, it was great. And I thought, wow, where's that coming from? I haven't seen that from anybody other than the silly Vlad dumping ice on people's heads. One of these times, somebody's going to turn around and slug him for that. I thought it was going to be Merrifield earlier in the season. It looked like he'd had it. He was sick of it. But anyway, what I saw from Kiermaier was the first time I'd seen anything like that, I think, where he talked directly to the crowd. He didn't care what the questions were. He was trying to get the crowd motivated even more than they already were after a
Mhm.
3-game streak, a great weekend, a big series coming up. And then all of that kind of disappeared. They were suddenly flat again.
Yeah.
Not just in the hitting, not just in some of the pitching, but they
But
just looked flat. It didn't look like they cared.
here's the thing, Peter. They should have beat Kansas City, and they did beat Kansas City. Full marks. They should have beat Kansas City like the Rangers have beat the Jays.
Yeah.
They should have
Yeah,
outscored them 26-7. And that is the expectation of this team with all this firepower, all these big bats. We've been talking about Bo Bichette and Vladdy Guerrero getting $30 to $40 million. That's not going to happen now. We've been talking about Rogers has to open the purse and pay all this money. Well, you know what? If I'm Edward Rogers and I'm watching this team and I'm seeing the frustration, I'm saying, okay, Mark, okay, Ross, we're going to spend some money, but I'm not sure we're spending as much as you want. Because
slow down, John. It's that might be, I mean, you're still dealing with 24, 25-year-old franchise pieces. I mean, people have bad years.
Well, people have bad years, but maybe Bo, maybe
And Bo's not having a bad year. Bo got hurt. I mean, Bo was having
Bo's been hurt. Bo's been hurt a couple times. There's no doubt, no question. But Vladdy, maybe the 46, 47 home run year is the outlier. Maybe this is Vladdy.
What do you think, Peter? I don't think so. I think this is an outlier year for him.
I think, I could go back to the ice bucket thing. I think Vladdy should start wondering why he's not the guy getting the ice poured over his head.
Yeah,
right?
maybe,
like, why isn't
maybe.
he the hero of the game? Where everybody expects he should be. You keep seeing him come up with people on the base. Now, mind you, he's become a good singles hitter of late, but you expect him to send it out of the park, and it hasn't been happening at the regularity that clearly Jays fans want. But here's the other way of looking at it. When you're talking about salaries and people and what will the Rogers people do at the end of this year? Two of the players have had the best season this year, right? I mean, leave Bo aside. Bo's Bo. You have Merrifield,
mm-hmm.
and you have Kiermaier. These guys are out of here at the end of this year, or they're going to have to pay a ton of money for them, right?
I think there's a belief internally that they're going to get Merrifield done for 3 years. I really do. I think.
Yeah, Merrifield has
have to pay him a lot of money.
Merrifield has a player option that's $18 million or so. So they'd have to rework that. The one thing about Kiermaier, though, I would say to both you guys, and again, I think he's obviously just an amazing fielder. He's had a really good year. There is an age issue there, and I don't know how many teams would be interested in signing him for multiple years, but it's going to cost you more than it did this year. The one thing with all of this in terms of money and Rogers is if they don't break the bank for Matt Chapman and he goes, they do have money. Ryu comes off the books. Mm-hmm. And so, they can figure it out. The other thing I wanted to just point out for this year, and this is something that the fans have been talking about, and I do believe it in some ways. I don't want to be a second guesser. When they made the Gurriel, Moreno trade for Dalton Varsho, like on paper, I thought that was a good deal. Like you looked at what Dalton Varsho could be. You're thinking, all right, if he takes another step, this is a like a 30-30 type of guy who's a great fielder. But I mean, I hate to sort of use this because it's so nebulous, but the chemistry of the clubhouse does feel different versus last year when you saw so much joy with Teoscar, Lourdes Gurriel. I think even that jacket was fun. Like it just like for whatever reason, like whenever you would see a guy hit a home run, like the whole team was happy for the guy and they had this goofy jacket and they may be more professional, but again, you go back to the word, it just seems more joyless in the dugout. And I don't know if I'm just playing optics here or if it's something else. What do you think, Peter?
I agree with you. There's something seems to be missing. I don't know what it is, and I don't know what's happening in the clubhouse. I don't know what the relationship is like with those players. I mean, you watch the bench when they're batting, and you see all the players there, and you try to see who's talking to whom, who's standing with whom. Do they look like they're happy? Do they look like they're And every once in a while, you see it. You see them studying the iPad, and here you should try this, you try that. I mean, that's all good, but there's something definitely seems to be missing. I don't know what the relationship is like with the manager. I don't know what I was a big fan of Don Mattingly when he played. But I don't know what his relationship is with the hitters. Something's not going right in there.